But one big issue when it's come to this COVID-19 year for most of us is the financial performance, especially as it relates to our superannuation funds, our nest eggs, because the markets have been hammered, of course. Let's find out how they are now that that financial year is over. And I'm joined by David Elia, who's the CEO of Hostplus Super, one of the large health-based, I think, health industry-based superannuation funds. Thanks for joining us, David. Just give us a sense of your own fund. Of course, you can work into that, but funds across the board, just how tough has it been? Have people seen their nest eggs actually go backwards over this financial year, this past financial year?
Yeah, good evening, Chris. Great to be with you from, dare I say, from Melbourne. Firstly, Hostplus is the industry fund for workers in the hospitality tourism industry. So we've got a tremendous sense in terms of how difficult it's been, obviously, for a lot of our members who've been severely impacted, obviously, by the shutdown in markets. And it is quite unfortunate in terms of what is happening in Melbourne. Businesses were slowly coming back, particularly hospitality businesses were slowly coming back to the new normal, I suppose. But it's quite unfortunate for them to now, again, have been having to deal with another lockdown. But specifically to your question about returns, well, what an extraordinary few months it has been. As you know, markets don't like uncertainty, and we've seen phenomenal volatility in investment markets. But despite the fact that I suspect that the average fund, the average median growth fund, which is the balanced funds, the default funds for many of the superannuation funds, I think on average they're likely to deliver a negative rate of return. A median return is likely to be somewhere in the vicinity of around about negative 1.3%. You will have various funds deliver different levels of performance. The range of performance for those diversified options will probably be somewhere in the vicinity of positive 3% to negative 6%. And notwithstanding all of that, I think a lot of members, whilst they might be disappointed with the negative returns that they will also be confronted with, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it certainly could be, and I suppose, especially if you've sort of broken even or just made a bit of a gain over that financial year, there'll be a lot of expectation that when we come out of this, there'll be a lot of growth. That depends where in your sort of retirement savings cycle you are. But in your industry in particular, as you say, Hostplus looks after people in the hospitality and tourism sectors. You would have had a lot of people drawing down, presumably, on some of their superannuation savings because of those measures put in place to help people get through this crisis. That's going to handicap them for years to come, isn't it?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's been an interesting balancing act for the government in terms of allowing unprecedented access to people's retirement monies. We've had just under 260,000 members take advantage of the first stage of the early release scheme, and the total claims that we've been able to pay out for the first phase has just been just under $1.8 billion. In terms of the entire superannuation sector, I mean, demand has been unprecedented. We've seen somewhere in the vicinity of 2 million odd members already make a claim to the value of about $18 billion, which is now left the system. That's the first phase. We've also got the second phase in place now where people will again, subject to meeting the early release criteria, will again be able to make a claim for a further $10,000. And over the last 3 to 4 days since the scheme is obviously reopened, well, we have seen unprecedented demand. And in fact, I think we've already hit about $25 billion in total in terms of early release payments, and somewhere in the vicinity of about 2.4 million odd members have taken advantage of the early release scheme.
Now, super contributions, compulsory super contributions are due to go up pretty soon. Do you think the government might try and delay that because of the recession we're in at the moment and decide that people might be better off with any additional pay going straight into their pockets?
Yeah, well, the current SG at the moment is at 9.5%, and that is due to increase by 0.5% from the 1st of July of next year. It's a legislated increase, so it's there, it's law, and I think you've got to take the Prime Minister, you've got to take the Treasurer, you've got to take the Finance Minister on their word, and the Minister for Superannuation, Jane Hume, when they say that they will certainly honour the increase. So whether or not things change between now and the budget in October, I don't know, but I think as it stands at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any desire on their part to obviously tinker with the proposed increase.
Thanks for joining us, David. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bye-bye, Chris.
David Elia there from Hostplus Super. If your super fund ended up in the positive side of the ledger over the financial year just ended, you've done well. I think most of them have gone backwards. So a few have ended up in the positive territory, so you've done all right if that's the case.